Hello, this is Sarah V, and today I'm going to be making another jumper dress. I am going to be using Simplicity 9449. I'm going to be making this dress. I have made this in blue before, and it turned out cute, although I did change it so that the back has a normal neckline in the back instead of having a V in the front and a V in the back. So I'll probably do that again. And then the fabric I'm going to use is this corduroy that I got at Fabricmart in November. It has some green and some brown in it. And reds and pinks. I thought that would be cute. Well, originally wanted to make it in December, and I thought that would be cute because of Christmas. But I also think it'd be cute because it's February, and I think reds and pinks are cute in February. It has also, it could be like a little Valentine's Day kind of feel. Or Christmas. All depends how you style it, I suppose. In the next couple of weeks, I am going to be wrapping up my winter sewing, and we'll start on my spring sewing. And I will have a video up about what my spring sewing plans will be as an additional video during one of the weeks. So, there is a bit of an oversight. I'm sorry, there's like sun. Uneven. So, and it's corduroy. So the only way that one could actually match them is if I cut one side going this direction, cut the other one flipped in the opposite direction, but then the nap would not be in the same direction. And I would do that, but my only fear with that is that it will be noticeable. Like if it's in nice lighting, there might be a difference in the actual color tones because the nap's in the opposite direction. So maybe I'll see if I can cut it single layer, because if I can't match it, there's not much point in trying to match it, I guess. I don't know. To start out my cutting, I am beginning with the front skirt panel. I am cutting it as far up as I can to save fabric. I'm very excited to be able to move over to spring sewing soon. I am quite tired of the cold, and I just want to make cute little cottagey clothes and little vintage sundresses. In that piece of fabric that was unused from around my front skirt panel, I have enough space to cut out the bodice back. The next piece I'm cutting out is the other front skirt piece. I am putting it as close as I can to the last skirt piece so I have a long enough strip for the belt later, and also to make sure a defect in the fabric got hidden by the pocket placement. I can now move on to the back skirt pieces, placing them as close as I can. I expected this dress to take more fabric than it did, although last time I made this dress, my fabric width was smaller. I think it was something like 45 inches, and this time it's between 50 and 60 inches. In my last bit of odd fabric from the skirt, I cut out my bodice front. Then in some of the offcuts from the beginning of cutting this out, I can cut my pockets out, and I did do this on the opposite grain. The last thing that needs cut out now is the facings. To mark my darts this time, I am just stabbing a pin through the pattern so I can mark that point with chalk, and since most of the front dart is seam allowance, I'm just pinning till I get to the seam allowance. For the back darts, I stab through the point with a pin and clip the dart tails with my scissors. Then I can mark the point with my chalk and draw the darts in. Starting with the bodice, I am doing the front darts first, followed by the back darts. After a press at the iron and a re-iron of the bodice because the cats sit on everything, I can move on to the facings. Starting with the front facing, the center front seam gets sewn up. Now the facings can be pinned onto their respective front or back piece. Over at the machine, I can sew the facings on. I will have more of a tutorial up soon on doing shoulders like this because I've kind of glossed over it in this, but that one will be much more in depth, and then if you want to look back at it, you won't have to search through the video. After trimming and clipping the neck and armholes, they can be understitched. Now they can be sandwiched and sewn, which I don't have footage of it because apparently it wasn't recording. Now that the shoulders are together, I can sew the side seams of the bodice before moving on to the skirt. Moving on to the skirt, I am prepping the skirt panels and pinning them for later, whilst also pinning up my pockets. Over at my machine, I am sewing the pockets up, leaving a gap so I can turn it right side out. Over at my table, I am trimming the seams, clipping the corners, and clipping the curved edges before I can press it into place. Now I can pin my pockets on. I use the same method of marking the pockets as I did marking the darts, except I did not use chalk to mark it. I just used pins on the outside to mark it so I knew where to place my pocket. Over at my machine, I am sewing the pockets down, and it's just an edge stitch all around. Now that my pockets are on, I can sew my center front and center back skirt seams. At the ironing board, I can press my skirt seams. Back at my machine, I can sew up my side seams, leaving the appropriate amount open on the left side for my zipper. Before pinning my bodice to the skirt, I made sure all my seams were serged and pinned at matching seams and notches, and center front and center backs. After I sew the waist seam, I serged the edge before I edge stitched the seam allowance up from the outside. Now the zipper needs sewn in, and I am doing a lapped zipper. I almost forgot to put my label in. Wilma and I are pinning up my hem at 2 inches. After stitching up my hem, I can give the hem a nice press. Despite not being able to match any of the stripes because of how the fabric was, I still think it's really cute. I think cutting the pockets on the cross grain ended up looking really nice because it kind of makes a little chevron look when the dress is hanging with its folds, which I think is quite cute. This dress is very comfortable, so I'm excited to get to wear it. Although the amount of string and fabric bits that were stuck to the corduroy by the time I was done with it was a lot. And as someone who sews a lot, corduroy is a love of mine. But the fact that it collects everything is not my favorite, but I enjoy corduroy too much to let that stop me. This is going to be my last video in February, so I'll have my February update for my 150 yard challenge for the year sometime, probably the last day of February, so that will be good. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more sewing content, please subscribe. If you would like to see what I'm up to day to day, feel free to follow me on Instagram at SarahVSewsVintage. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.